So, welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about something extremely important and how this has a huge impact into your everyday life. And this is about projection and past wounds. This is something which has made such a big difference in my life. And sometimes I keep forgetting to apply it myself. But overall, when you learn to apply this and you become more aware of challenging yourself about this, I'm going to get into that in a bit, so bear with me, then it will have such a huge impact into your life. And you will start seeing certain situations from a completely different perspective, which will be much better and much more helpful for you. So, I'm sure you've been in a situation, or like, let's say, you've come out of an argument where afterwards you thought to yourself, actually, this was so unnecessary, and I've made such a big elephant out of a mosquito. Do you have this saying in English? We say this in German, like, don't make an elephant out of a mosquito. So, I want you to remember this and maybe catch yourself next time you feel something. I'm going to give you again some examples to make it more visible for yourself so you can apply this to your own examples in your everyday life. Typical examples, actually, that can trigger you to project or react from a past wound is when someone doesn't reply to your message, or even replies but not in the time frame that you would expect and consider as appropriate from your perspective, right? Another projection you could have or react to is if someone has a different tone of voice than you would expect the person to have. Oftentimes, again, in a partnership, but a lot of times this can happen between friendships or especially in family dynamics as well. Also, another example is if someone becomes distant and you project onto that specific behavior. So, and I'm sure you have experienced something that I've just mentioned. And I want you to really internalize what I'm going to say now, because this will create a better understanding why you react sometimes the way you do. So, past emotional experiences create patterns. And then there's also your nervous system that stores emotional memory. And then the present moment, whatever is happening now, if someone doesn't respond right now, or someone responds with a different tone of voice, like something like a tone of voice that is not in your expectation or something that you don't like right now, that present moment gets filtered through that memory. So you always have a fact where someone perhaps doesn't respond in a very friendly way. Like, let's say they respond in a very monotone way. That's a fact, right? But then you also create a meaning to that depending whatever emotional memory you have stored in your memory that gets filtered through the present moment. So I just want you to know that there is always a fact, and then there is a personal meaning, your own interpretation that you add to the fact. And then the whole situation becomes a whole different perspective. And because we all have our own past experiences and our own emotional memories, it can become very complex. And sometimes it can explode where something was a mosquito and then it becomes an elephant. This is oftentimes what happens, especially between in a relationship dynamic, in a partnership, and also what I've seen as well is between friendships, and where it happens also most of the times is between family dynamics. So I just want you to take this in and challenge yourself as well in the future, where you can catch yourself in moments where you start to interpret a certain situation in a completely different way. And I'm going to give you examples now that will help you to determine that for yourself, where you have maybe projected or are still projecting certain situations or dynamics in a way where it's absolutely unnecessary. So I'm going to give you two different examples. The one, it's a bit more personal, but I don't know if you've experienced this, if you can relate to that, but you can find out for yourself and reflect what kind of certain situations you find yourself in, where you take it personal and where you can actually take yourself out of that moment and try to reflect on it more in a realistic way, from a fact-based way, and see what how do I say, where this is coming from in your past. And when you sit down and reflect, your body always stores that memory. So if you take some time and reflect why you react that certain way, your body will always have the answer for you. So what has happened in my past a lot, actually, it's not like this anymore because now I'm aware of it, so I don't take it personal anymore. But what has happened in the past is I would find myself not enjoying group dynamics, or if I don't know how to phrase it now, but I would enjoy much more being in one-on-one dynamics or friendships rather than being in a group setting. Because as a child, you must know, I am the third child. I'm the baby. I have two older siblings. I have an older brother and an older sister. And when I was small, they were very close with each other. And then I always felt like the third wheel, and I always felt excluded from them. So when I grew older, when there were like group dynamics, or like in a friend circle, and they did something together and I wasn't part of it, I would always feel excluded. So for a long time, I would take that very personal, and I wasn't really conscious or aware of it, and I would just project onto that, and felt like they don't want me. And then you can imagine the feelings I would carry inside me, until I became conscious of that, and I could choose a different reaction based on seeing this as a fact, that they maybe had a conversation to get together to do something, and I wasn't even part of that, which is completely normal and human. And sometimes situations like that happen, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. In that case, it had nothing to do with me, but it took me a long time to get to that point. And this is why I want to talk about this, because oftentimes we make our lives so difficult by the projections we have by that have been created from our past experiences. And oftentimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And the other example that I want to get into, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, is when you send a message to someone and that person doesn't respond immediately. I had this the other day as well, but I was on the other side, and I'm very glad that that friend approached me after 2 days. I haven't responded for 2 days. So if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but again, it had nothing to do with you. Perfect example. She responded to me after 2 days and said, hey, have I said something wrong? With a laughing smiley. Very nice message, right? So in that way, I was like, oh, I should have really responded, but I was so busy during those 2 days that, of course, it's always a matter of priorities, right? But I responded then immediately to let her know, hey, it has nothing to do with you. And I was just so busy. Apologies. I didn't get back to you sooner. And her response was so nice as well. Then she said, it's not a problem. It's just like knowing how you cooperate or like how you work. So I know then how to take it. And I guess it's always a matter of communication. It's always understanding each other, not taking things personal. And oftentimes, if someone doesn't respond immediately, I mean, of course, if weeks go by, that shouldn't be the case either. But so many times we take it personal if someone doesn't respond or doesn't respond in the time frame you would expect for the person to respond. But each and everyone has their own life, and each and everyone has their own reasons, has their own memories, has their own past experiences. So I would like to encourage you to differentiate between your own personal meaning and the facts. And this is a tool. This has helped me so much, taking myself out of an emotion. I mean, the emotion can be there, but you take your power back when you basically refer to the situation and see what in this situation is actually a fact and what is the meaning that you give into this, which changes the whole perspective. And it then also changes the whole outcome depending on your reaction to the situation. So in terms of this fact and meaning tool that I'm going to tell you, in my case, for example, the two examples that I gave you, it's in that group dynamic, for example, if people talk together and I wasn't asked to attend the get together or something like that. The fact in this case was that my friends or that certain group got together without me having been asked to join for whatever reason. The fact is just they got together. They are talking together, right? And the meaning I put into that was I'm excluded. But I gave that meaning because from my own past experience with my siblings, where I already always felt excluded as a child. The other example is someone doesn't reply to you. And I'm sure we all have experienced this. Someone doesn't reply to you in 24 hours or within the first 3 hours. Even like on WhatsApp, you see the blue ticks. On Instagram, you see seen, and you wonder, this person has seen my message, but they don't respond. So the fact is the person hasn't responded. The meaning you give into that is you are not important enough, right? This is the meaning you give it, but you don't know the background. You don't know if maybe something critical has just happened or something, I don't know what, it can be anything. But your interpretation is then you are not important and you take it personal and you maybe react insulted, or maybe you react like next time the person responds to you, you react a bit cold because you took it personal. And this is where I would like you to challenge yourself in future situations where you really ask yourself what here in this situation is actually a fact and what is the meaning you give into that. So in that way, you can avoid making an elephant out of a mosquito. Because, the goal is not to fight the reaction or to change your whole self or like to suppress how you feel. It's much more to really become aware of where this emotion is actually coming from and becoming aware that this is a past experience which you have carried over all these years and why you are reacting the way you are reacting. But now the difference is that you become so much aware of yourself and where it's actually coming from that now you can choose a different reaction to it so you can experience a different outcome. Because the moment you are aware, you create space between what triggers you and then your reaction to it. And I'm going to close with this. And I really want you to reflect on this because you don't suffer from your reality or from your everyday life of what is happening, but you are creating the suffering yourself from the interpretation or from the story that you are telling yourself, from the memories that basically from your emotional patterns that you have created subconsciously over all these years. And once you start to realize your own projections, you are in a much better position where you stop taking things personally. And from that moment, you are in a much better position to react from the present moment than continuously reacting from your past. So I am really passionate about this topic also because it's just the difference between a fact and the meaning that we create into this. Once you really become aware of that and like catch yourself in the moment where you are like, oh my God, I have been reacting like this. And now I start to realize where it's coming from. You can choose a whole different, reaction for whatever situation you are finding yourself in. And that really is freedom and relief and actually self-reflection of self-awareness, especially where you can create a much better outcome for yourself, making life easier and not always project onto the other person, but actually starting to look internally how you've made your own life difficult by your thoughts, by your emotions that you carry on from the past. So I hope this was helpful. And I would love to hear from you if this has helped you or this is helping you in the future, this tool of thinking about what is actually here the fact and what is the emotional meaning that you give to the fact. And if you ever have questions, send me a message on my Instagram, my.mspire, or via email, my@mspire.co.uk. I'm always happy to hear from you, and I hope you have a great start to the week, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.